As promised, we are going to have a conversation with Steve Burton from Waterproof Solutions. Steve is our expert contributor and regular guest on the show. Steve, how are you today? Even though you told us earlier you're doing great. Are you still doing great?
I couldn't be doing better. In fact, it just makes people sick when I tell them if I were any better, I'd be double.
That's kind of scary to me, actually. Cause
it's my time. It's raining, man. It's raining.
I think one of you is enough, but spring is the season. I mean, we've got inspections going out. We are selling houses almost as fast as they can come up. It takes like 1 minute to sell a house.
Isn't that crazy?
With Gerard Realty Group, it's crazy. The market is on fire. Of course, it's still spotty. You know, I mean, you see houses all over town like we do, and it's a strange market. Inventory's down, but
drying up. Yeah,
it's just crazy. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about some concepts as far as your work goes and foundation repair and that type of thing, because this is a season when if you're going to have foundation issues, it's going to be now. Right.
It is. After a drought, the ground pulls away from the foundations, and then you get the snows, and that kind of packs it all back in, and now the rains come, and so anything that was ailing starts to really kind of scream at you right now.
Yeah, and so we're seeing, more issues come up. I mean, I guess some of those they're not disguised, but they're just easier to see on the inspections that are coming up in this season. And so there's a lot of different processes, procedures. There's different ways that people can have their foundations, their basements fixed, and we see good things out there. We see less good things out there, if that's a word. So it's not all the same, right? I mean, there's different types of basement repairs.
Well, the reality of it is you can do things as an architect or an engineer would do them, or you could do them as an entrepreneur. And a lot of people in my industry have decided to come up with their own little way of doing things. I like to call it the patented process approach.
Meaning, so you're talking about people who aren't necessarily like trained, aeronautical engineers and rocket science.
I think more of it is they're looking for a path to run on. It's like anything. Franchises aren't bad in many areas, but in my situation, if you're only given one type of a pier or one type of an epoxy, or you're only allowed to use one type of a brace, or maybe you're going to deviate from the real work that's to be done. And labor-saving devices are sold to these franchises. And what I mean by that is instead of traditional drain tile, they'll set something on top of the footing or they'll lay something next to it. And they sell it to me like, hey, guess what, guys? This is so easy to put in. You only have to take out this much concrete. Right. Very little rock. It's easy. Less work on the house. But in the long run, there's a big percentage of those that don't work, and I have to go take them out and fix them.
Well, and the real complexity, I mean, it's not that a franchise competitor of yours is inherently bad. I mean, a franchise that has a great product, has well-trained people, franchise is just a different structure for that guy's business. But the problem that I see in what you do is that clients, the owners of the houses, they have no idea what you or the other guy is talking about.
And they're talking about there are stone foundations, brick foundations, block foundations, poured foundations. I could go on. How does one thing work on all of them? They don't.
Right. And most of those guys, I guess, their exposure, especially more so the franchise guys, maybe.
Right. And I'm not mean. I'm not trying to be mean to them, but they've limited their scope of work.
This is a Gerard Realty show. We can be mean to anybody.
I fastball anybody, and if I'm wrong, call in and tell me I'm wrong, and you'll be my best friend, and I'll tell you from now on that I learned that from this person. But I'm from the show me state. By God, if you're going to do something, do it right. Do it to the best of your abilities. Don't fall prey to making a quick buck because it's easy.
Right. And do the right thing for the customer, not necessarily for yourself.
Well, that's exactly right, because it'd be real easy for me to take these shorter cuts and stand with the big boys and say, well, I do it like that. No, stand alone.
What we need is to get more passion out of you for what you do. I mean, that's
do you know how many people I sit in their home and they're crying because they spent $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 with some knucklehead,
right? And
now I've got to straighten it back out.
And they have no idea getting into it. I mean, they're going to get an inspection from a building inspector,
and he's doing his best, but he doesn't know my business.
But what he's going to do is he's going to say, hey, you need to get a top guy, because the Gerard Realty Group. I mean, our job is to help people make sure that they don't have big surprises when they're buying or selling their properties. And the point of the Gerard Realty show is to bring together the professionals to give advice to people when they're thinking about buying and selling and owning a house. And
that's why your group sends me in sometimes before the inspector to save your client maybe some undue checks being written. And we offer that at Waterproof Solutions. We do that at no charge.
Right. And not only do you do it, but it's always you that does it too, which is a whole different thing.
Or Scott Koenig, who's built over 300 homes in this town that are quality homes. So the homeowners need a voice. They need someone that's going to look out for them. Businesses have purchasing agents. They have engineers that look out. Who does the homeowner have besides you and me?
Well, some of them might have what you kind of refer to as a patented process. So that kind of gets back to not just the the type of work, but the style of work. So explain what you would call as far as the lookout for the patented process in foundation repair.
If there's not ASTM standards, American Standards of Test and Measures, if there is not one for it or an equivalent, it doesn't stand up in the commercial world, so it should not stand up in the residential world, but who's looking out? So when somebody comes up to you and says, we're the only one that has, you should immediately...
Meaning they're the only ones that have this system that nobody else has.
And guess what? In
special.
America, they make something that's just perfectly just like it, and I can buy anything that's out there. So that's a bunch of phooey.
So are there standards? I mean, you talk about ASTM. We talk about American Society of Home Inspectors. So ACI. How does someone know when they're bringing somebody in? Obviously, if it's Waterproof Solutions, they know that. But what are the questions that our listeners, if they're thinking about or they know they have an issue and they want to get someone to look at, what are they looking for? What questions two questions that they need to ask somebody that's going to come to their house? What
is your passion for what you do?
And you have very little passion because it's hard to get the words out of you.
If I wanted to just stay in the money, I'd stay in the commercial world because that's where the money's at.
Gotcha.
I really enjoy homeowners. And if you can make a homeowner happy, you can make anybody happy.
So what's the question? How does the homeowner know? What do they ask to know whether you have the standard or whether you actually know what you're doing?
I will direct them in every area. Now, you've got 4 personalities out there. If you get somebody like me, I don't want any of that. But if you've got somebody that's very analytical and they want to, I can send them down every YouTube channel, every ASTM standard, every ACI standard so that they can check it out. Don't believe anybody. Research. If you feel like you're being snowed, you probably are.
And when the guy shows up, ask him what his qualifications are.
Absolutely.
Ask him what his training is.
If I meet a guy that sells cars and he's only sold them for 3 years, he doesn't have tenure as a car salesman. He's learning it still.
Right.
And a lot of times you're going to meet somebody in my industry and you're going to say, so what? You look familiar to me. What did you use? And boy, all of a sudden, I used to be a fireman. I used to be an insurance guy. And all that is fine. And that doesn't mean they won't be a good foundation person someday. But by God, 22 years, I'm still learning.
The point is to ask questions. And when somebody needs to ask a question of you, they are going to call you on
my cell phone, 636-236-9933 or at waterproof-solutions.com.
So if you know or suspect that you have an issue, if you're seeing water in your basement that wasn't there a month ago, you can call Steve Burton today and just call anytime, really. I mean, 636-236-9933. That's Steve's cell phone. Steve, as always, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, brother.
We appreciate you being expert contributor on the Girard Realty Show, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, brother.